time with one of our best-loved actors, Bill Patterson.
Hot and it's cold. It's interesting.
We'll be unearthing the roots of some of the classic Scottish meals that so many of us grew up with and recreating those recipes. There's so much choice and variety of food these days, but let's not lose touch with our past. So come with us as we rediscover Bill Patterson's Lost Supper. My happiest childhood memories were being at home with my family. Our Italian heritage meant we had homemade macaroni for Christmas. It was this mix of Italian and Scottish culture that shaped my passion as a cook. So I want to start at the beginning with Bill, retracing his earliest steps as a child back in post-war Scotland. Born in 1945, Bill grew up with his family in the East End of Glasgow. Although much has changed, Bill still remembers life as a young boy sent on his errands here in Denniston to pick up ingredients for the family dinner.
I was born up there above Achman's shop, the two windows there. In those days, Achman's there was the butchers, Hislop the butchers. The estate agent there was a baker. Next to it was the Buttercup Dairy. And the far away corner was a big fruit shop.
So you had everything you needed?
You could walk out the length of that, you could do your shopping. This was Thompson's, Andy Thompson's, the fishmonger. A lovely little display of beautifully filleted fish. And I used to come along here with a little wheelbarrow. I had a wee barrow when I was tiny, a wee boy. With newspapers once every so often for them to use to wrap the fish in, and I got a wee packet of crisps, Smith's crisps.
The wee blue bag of salt.
Blue bag. But at least the Swallow Cafe has survived. That was always there, and it's still there, still the same name.
In its day, the Swallow Cafe would have been part of an exciting new wave of cafe culture. Influenced by American soldiers from the war and an influx of Italian immigrants, they became the place to eat out, and an opportunity to have food they couldn't normally cook in tenement kitchens. Tell me about your childhood.
My mother was of that generation that food was a central part of caring for a family. Most of it was freshly made in the house, except when we came down here to the Swallow Cafe. And the very special treat, often on a Friday night, was a fish supper, 1 and 10pence, old money.
Brilliant, because your mum cooked every day?
My mum cooked. My mum was a regular. She wasn't a great cook. She never claimed to be. She was always a bit apologetic about her cooking. But we'd always have a bit of meat, which I would get at one of the butchers up there. I don't remember anything as a big lump of an animal. It was always rolled. It was a rolled brisket. And that would be the Sunday dish. And then that would be spread out throughout the week. You know, the bit of that brisket would be left to do stovies, and it would just stew into a gorgeous kind of lovely congealed thing.
Bill's mum would have been typical of the time, cooking with versatile ingredients. But it was one particular favourite of Bill's that's of real interest to me.
There's a pie made inside an enamel, usually white, if I remember right.
With
white with a blue edge. It's from the French, assiette, the plate.
Uh-huh.
And the pie was a steak pie covered in puff pastry. And these were bought in. That was the one and only Ashet pie.
And was it steak pie or was it steak and kidney pie?
I hope it was steak. I think it was steak. I don't remember much kidney in it because I never liked kidney.
Because that's the classic Scottish, is a steak and kidney.
Yeah.
Do you think it might just be steak?
I wasn't a big boy in the offal, you know. I was a kind of fussy eater, really.
All sounds simple, but I want to get this just right for Bill. The big taste clue is the absence of traditional offal ingredients like kidney. This would have been cheaper than steak and used to fill up the pie. So I'm heading back to my kitchen to get started on Bill's version of the Ashet pie. Got my lovely Ashets. We're going to make our Ashet pie. Bill seems to have been a fussy eater when he was a wee boy, and it's obvious his mum adored him, so I think his mummy just probably made him steak pie in the Ashet. For this recipe, for Bill's memory to recreate the flavour, the butcher or his mum would have used beef dripping. So we've got our beef dripping, our steak, some flour which we're going to season, and an onion. Now an onion, something that my mother on the East Coast, we never used an onion in our steak pie, but I'm absolutely convinced on the West Coast an onion was an added ingredient to give extra flavour, and then some beef stock. Beef dripping goes in. Okay, we're going to start frying the onion in our beef dripping. Onion. This will just take a few minutes to fry off to get nice and soft, and then we're going to remove the onions and add our seasoned beef. So we're going to season some plain flour with just a little bit of salt, and then we're going to toss in our chunks of steak, and this will help thicken the gravy so that the pie is lovely and creamy and rich. Right, so we're adding the steak coated in the flour. So we want this to be lovely and brown and golden. We're going to add our cooked onion. We've got some beef stock, just enough to cover the steak. So we've got our brown steak. Interestingly, Bill doesn't remember seeing meat that was ever any other colour than brown. So probably because it was always cooked in a stew or cooked in a pie. So this is our stewing steak that's lovely and brown and ready to be covered to simmer in the oven for about an hour and a half. There's no offal, there's no kidney, it's just the way Bill would have liked it, the way Bill's mum would have made it for him. And then after about an hour and a half, we'll take it out, we'll let it cool a little, and then we'll fill our ashit pie. And then Bill's mum would have taken it to the butcher, and he would have cooked it just in time for Bill coming home for one of those errands that he always loved doing, collect the hot ashit pie with the lovely golden puff pastry ready for his tea. So here's hoping that we've recreated those flavours in that lovely puff pastry and the ashit pie.
Welcome back to Lost Supper. I'm on a culinary journey back through time with legendary Scottish actor Bill Patterson to rediscover some classic Scottish meals from our past. We're now heading west over McInroy's Point from Gourock to Dunoon.
Right, we're going to second. There we go.
Look at that, effortless.
Effortless.
We're just going to stay in second. That's lovely, isn't it? This is great. The one taste that will take me back to Dunoon was ham and lentil soup. And my Aunt Polly, either her recipe or her method or whatever, was very special. This delicious mixture of ham, lentil, carrot.
So was it a ham end?
I guess it would be. You know, I didn't. You know, as a boy, I didn't. I never entered the kitchen to discover these.
Bill's Aunt Polly had a guest house here that Bill and his family would often come to visit. To help me get the taste he remembers, I'm taking him to meet a local family with just what I need. An old, local family cookbook handed down through the generations.
Here we are, we're here at Dunoon. There it is, Dunoon Pier 1 mile. That's it, well done. The guest house was up there with a wee sign that said Dunoon Pier 1 mile. So we're here, we've made it. Dear old Aunt Polly. All we need is a nice bowl of Aunt Polly's lentil soup to warm us up.
Is it bringing it all back to you?
It's all coming back, including the hypothermia. So picture, if you will, sun-kissed Firth of Clyde, blue sea, the highlands behind us, the green, the heather, everything there. We're not getting it, but we're going to get the bowl of soup.
Time to meet our local Dunoon family of home cooks.
We've travelled all this way to see the book. It's just beautiful. Bill, did your mother have a cookbook like this?
Yeah, not unlike that, not quite as exotically together as that, but it was a collection. It was like a magpie's nest of things slipped in.
Your mother was obviously a very keen baker. So
Our house always smelled of baking.
Yeah.
You know, when you came in from school, Granny was always baking. There was always a tin in the cupboard. So when you came in starving, you went straight to the cupboard. You know, when you knew family, there'd be coffee buns, there'd be, you know, crumpets on the stove, there would be scones, there would always be something in the house.
Yolanda, can you let me help you make something from the book?
How about I help you make something from the book?
It's your family's recipes now, it's your family's recipes. Now I think you two should go and have a wee natter about Dunoon.
We'll go and talk Dunoon.
Yeah. Talk Dunoon.
No, I can't think of Dunoon without my Aunt Polly's lentil soup. She just had a way of making it, and I tried to recreate it myself.
Yes, but do you put them in stuff in the right order?
No, like, I can't tell me the right order.
No, you see, to make lentil soup, you must put it in the right order. Your onion goes into it.
OK, goes into it.
Your turnip goes into it.
So
and your carrot goes into it last.
Your turnip? I've never made it with turnip.
You always put a wee bit of turnip into it.
Right.
So one recipe I've got to crack for Bill is lentil soup. Now, I found one in your book here. Aunt Polly used to make it, and obviously Granny Jean made it, so was it a Dunoon thing to
Lentil soup is definitely something that we would eat quite a lot.
Now, I noticed there's a turnip there. I never put a turnip in my lentil soup.
Do you know? It fills it up. It makes your soup go further, and the vegetables are all grated.
Grated?
Grated first, so it can be easier to break down.
Yolanda, well done, lovely. Taking me back to my childhood too. Do you think I'll be able to do it? So it tastes like
definitely, you'll be able to definitely. If you follow the recipe, and you can't go wrong with ham and lentil soup.
You can.
It tastes great whenever you have it.
With those fateful words, I'm heading back to my kitchen to try and do justice to that beautiful old family recipe. The proof is in the tasting, but I'm really hoping I can jog Bill's precious childhood memories with this classic local lentil and ham soup. We're going to make our ham and lentil soup. One of my favourite Scottish hearty recipes. So easy to make and so easy for Bill's mum to make too, which is the point. So we've got our ham end, we've got our lentils, onions, carrots, and in Yolanda's recipe, some turnip. Everything we've got here is local to Bill, the lentils, the ham end from the butcher, and all the vegetables in season. So we're going to get the ham end, we're going to put it into the water and bring it over to the heat. And then we're going to let that come up to the boil. And once it's up to the boil, what we're going to do is just clean it. Just anything that comes to the surface, just help removing any of those extra strong, not so nice flavours, and then it'll be perfect for us to add our vegetables. If you think of cockaliki or leek and potato, Scotch broth, they're all indigenous ingredients. Lentils are not indigenous to Scotland. They were probably introduced in the sort of 1850s, 1860s, around the time of the Empire, and that would have added a completely different flavour. You know, lentil soup would have been quite exotic, different taste. Having a store cupboard in Bill's mum's day would have been a vital part of her kitchen. She would have had some lentils, she would have had split peas, she would have had some pearl barley. Very easy, cheap ingredients that didn't go off, and they were there when she needed them. I've rinsed the lentils, probably out of tradition more than necessity. In Bill's mum's day, the lentils inevitably, like any of the pulses, would have been in the greengrocers in big open sacks. And you can imagine what else might have got into those sacks. We're adding some onion, carrots. Yes, you can grate them if you've got the time, but having them in slice will work brilliantly. And the secret ingredients. I think this might bring back a few memories for Bill if that's what was used. I'm just going to add literally a spoonful of salt, enough to bring the flavour around. In there, safe as houses, for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever time she had.
It's the final leg of our trip, and I've promised Sweet Tooth Bill there's a treat in store. We're now leaving the mainland behind to take the short ferry trip over to Millport. Before the days of package holidays, thousands flocked here from across the country to enjoy the beautiful beaches and sunshine.
So, Karina, here we are. We're in Millport. This is the jewel of the Firth of Clyde. It was dazzling. Every day was like this. We got less hypothermia, but dazzling. And I was here late 50s or so when this crazy golf was put in, and it just seemed amazing. It was like Las Vegas had arrived, and we'd hit the big time. So.
It's great fun.
Great. I wouldn't mind a game now.
Thank you.
So
we've spent our pocket money.
Oh, now that's the macaroon bar.
That's mine.
And that's yours. Okay, I'm going to have a bit. I'm having a bit. Stick it up.
But we're not here for sweeties. We're here to visit a Millport institution, the Ritz Cafe. The original owners, the Righetti family, brought a recipe for success all the way from Italy. Ice cream made the traditional way.
I've heard that this had the best ice cream. It was even better than my grandfather's. Oh, there's no hesitation.
No, you see, that's it.
I heard that what made it different here was it was fresh eggs added. Oh, she's not giving anything away.
Very inscrutable, that is.
There may have been eggs in it.
There may have been eggs in it, because that was very unusual, because normally it was just cream or milk base with a thickener, maybe a cornflour or a custard that was made from a powder. And so what was your top-selling ice cream?
Our most popular was always a marshmallow ice.
Marshmallow ice.
Never had one of these. I couldn't have afforded it.
Yeah.
Yours was
the double nugget. Oh yeah, there's a double nugget, a single nugget, and then the no nugget at all.
Need an oyster.
Not an oyster.
These traditional Italian ice cream recipes are dear to my heart and were the reason that so many Italian families flourished here in Scotland. So one last trip to the kitchen, but this time to cook the way that my family used to.
This is a recipe that Bill's mum certainly would never ever have made, but she would have eaten gallons of ice cream, particularly in the summer when she was down at Millport. And the Italians are famous in this country and around the world for making beautiful, wonderful, creamy ice cream. In the early days, the cone hadn't been invented, and you may have heard of the hokey pokey man. So the hokey pokey man used to present the ice cream on a glass plate to the customer and say, "Ecco un poco, here, taste a little." So the hokey pokey man became the synonymous description of the man that sold the ice cream. So this is a very traditional, very classic Italian recipe. We've got a pint of milk and cream, equal quantities, 1 vanilla pod, and 3 eggs, and just over 4 ounces of caster sugar. Now we're going to start by warming through the cream and the milk. We don't want it to boil, and the vanilla. We'll pop it in whole, and then we'll separate it out later. This is a classic recipe. Eggs, the egg yolks are the part that we use, and we've got our caster sugar. Now these would have been very luxurious ingredients. You know, this was a treat to get an ice cream, and that's the start of our egg and caster sugar. Now you can see it's changed that lovely, creamy, light yellow colour. So we have our lovely, warm milk and cream. Now it's important that you just strain the cream in, mix to make the custard. Now the smell of the vanilla and the sugar and the eggs, it's really quite evocative, and it really takes me back. The thing that we need to do now is release all those lovely pods from the vanilla. Cut it right through the middle, and then with the non-serrated side, I am going to take out all those lovely, lovely, lovely little seeds. Now what we're going to do is we're going to strain this into a clean pan, get all those vanilla seeds. Now what this does is just helps remove any particles of the egg that may have cooked unwantingly. And then we're going to take it over to the heat and just allow it to thicken, not so much that it becomes a custard, but just enough to cook it, ready to then cool, and then we're going to put it into the freezer and make a batch of ice cream. And hopefully this authentic Italian Scots ice cream will recreate those happy memories of Bill as a little boy in Millport eating ice cream. It's finally time to serve up Bill's lost supper. Looking at what was available for Bill's mum in post-war Glasgow has been the key to recreating those forgotten tastes. First course is the lentil and ham soup that his Aunt Polly used to make, followed by Bill's all-steak, no-offal ashet pie. Finally, my own family recipe for everyone's favourite, an ice cream nugget wafer. So the work's been done.
Oh, I can't believe.
Is there any one thing that takes you right back, or does it all take you right back?
I think that my eye goes straight to the double nugget.
Well done. I think that's the one you've got to start with. Come and have a seat.
Starting with a double nugget.
Come and have a seat.
No, I think we'd do something properly. Isn't it beautifully presented?
Right, so
Go.
now
Right.
Aunt Polly would
Yep.
obviously start
Yes.
with the ham and lentil soup. So just have a wee taste. Now we've got the ham hock, we've got the lovely
Yes.
secret ingredient from the recipe book.
Oh, that's it.
Was that it?
That's it. Got it in one.
Got it in one?
Got it in one.
Is it good enough?
It's exactly right.
It's exactly
It
right,
just
darling.
takes you, but that is just very, very special.
So far so good with the soup, but I did have the luxury of a local family recipe. Now for the ashet pie. The recipe was based on Bill's memories of all steak, no offal, but that's a risk as it would have made a huge difference to the taste. Let's hope I've got it right.
No, this is an ashet pie.
Is this an ashet pie?
To die for, and it's not a phrase I like, but in this case it's probably appropriate. The ashet pie. And another thing you've got just right, I think, Karina, is that slight burnt quality to the base. It's just on the tongue, you know.
I know you well enough now that I'll take that as a compliment.
I take that as a compliment
I'll take
because
that
it's
as a
delicious. It's fantastic.
Are we taking you back to Denniston?
Absolutely.
And finally, my parents would never forgive me if I got this one wrong, but is it as good as the Rigetti's family in Millport?
Oh, look, it is an ice cream scoop there, you know. Did you make this?
Yes. Oh, I'm frightened to say anything now. Is that good?
Fantastic. Oh, do you know that? Have you ever thought of starting some restaurants and an ice cream shop?
I'm delighted that my recipes passed Bill's all-important taste test. 3 classic Scottish dishes that have been enjoyed by generations of Scots, just like Bill.
Bill, thank you so much. It's been an absolute joy to rediscover and trace back all these memories and rediscover your lost suppers. Thank you so much.
I've loved every minute of it. And thank you for the trek. And if I had a glass here, I'd say salute.
Absolutely. Good health.
Thank you.
These classic, simple dishes we take for granted were once the staple foods so many of us grew up on. Family mealtimes are precious, creating so many memories, and it's important we don't forget how to make these dishes for future generations. I've really enjoyed travelling back through time with Bill and rediscovering his lost supper.